Welcome to the Adam online program in December. This is River, and I will, for today's section and program, I will briefly do the opening before handing the stage to the presenters and artists today. Um, Adam, which is abbreviation of Asia Discovers Asia Meeting for Contemporary Performance, and this Adam is a initiative and platform that I have been collaborating with the Taipei Performing Arts Center since 2017, and each year we use this platform to facilitate and support and bring together artists from different regions, particularly from the Asia Pacific, and also from various disciplines of visual art and performing arts on site in Taipei to encounter, to do collective research, to invent ideas, or even to build up relations and collaborative projects. And since last year, because of the pandemic, so Adam as a platform sort of like transfer all these encounters into digital space. And this year, because the ongoing pandemic situation, so we decided to launch a new program called Rehearsing for the Future, which is the program here. This Rehearsing for the Future is a research sharing project that hopefully to continuously support our artists from different spaces and different knowledges and background to come to work together again. Today we are very pleased to present a research sharing of with motherhood's project. This project is made by Scarlett Yu and Ethan Tong and their children. Their children are around. Um, with Motherhood Project is a research progress on motherhood of queer, miscultured, non-human, and humanoid, continuously reshaping the normative concept of mother. Scarlett is Hong Kong-born and Berlin-based dance artist. Her work navigates the in-betweenness of the politics and the poetic of the narrative listening and telling. Ethan is a dancer, choreographer, and educator from Taiwan, working in various contexts, including dance, theater, film, and music. And then we have their collaborators, Zico Yu Lehua, born in 2020. Hi, Zico. And Nigel Fangas. Nigel Fangas is born in 2019. And both of them are experimenting various modes of connectivities of living and the cultures around them. Additionally, today we have a special guest, Madeleine Plongnex-Coker, born in LA and based in Paris. Madeleine is associate curator at Galerie Lafayette Anticipation in Paris, and also professor and co-director of the chair program Trouble Systems Aesthetics at the École Beaux-Arts de Paris. And Madeleine will be joining the conversation and during the sharing to enlarge and expand the process today. Right, and now the stage is all of yours, Scarlett, Ethan, and Madeleine, please.
Hello, hello.
Oh, Scarlett, yeah, unmute.
Yes, unmute. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Maybe I would like to just take a moment to give a little bit of a background of this project, and I would take this opportunity to thank everyone and also the TPAM, the Adam team, that they are continuing support of my artistic development. Just a moment, because suddenly I don't see all of you. Please. Okay, so
Yeah, we are here.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So this project traced all the way back. I have during my pregnancy in 2019. I have a discussion with River about a new curation on the body of the mother potentially as a hybrid carrier of unspoken collective memory. And so, like River said, we observe how motherhood is being reshaped nowadays. How we think about motherhood and also mothering. So, in this, we were continuing this discussion, and the COVID come, and the COVID swallowed the whole Europe. Also, the arrival of my son Zico in the early 2020, and so this very immediate experience of motherhood was very much come together with this time, and also the project kind of shaped in a different way. And in between, I started a duet with presented a duet with Zico under also the frame of Adam in 2020, and there I was able to think to explore this thinking through the notion of domestic space and public spaces, and somehow these notions of this old saying of it takes a village to raise a kid. And during the pandemic, I was thinking, does it also take a village to raise a mother? And so in summer, then in 2021, I was doing my 21-day quarantine in Hong Kong. Even an Ijawa come to our mind, which I consider them, they are one of these hybrid carrier of certain historical complexity of Taiwan. And so we started in June our very first meeting, and I remember in this meeting, at the end of this meeting, River posed a question of, can a person without a child think about motherhood and mothering? And thanks for this question, it have expanded these conversations beyond the biological motherhood constructions. And so with that, we meet every full moon, and today it is a full moon. And so it's great to also meet all of you here on the full moon. And I think to share this research on the frame of rehearsing for the future, which means it is using the now to rehearse the future. And I think to rehearse, it is to experiment, and it's kind of practice battle between something that is already existing and something is not yet to know. And we know that there are many artists have been addressing motherhood and mothering, and they were very great nurture and also references. But I think we were thinking through the practice of mothering as a site of cultivating conversation, and we have this idea of using the word queer. At the beginning, there were also another subtitle of this project called Queer Motherhood, and I guess the queer that we use here is not only towards the identity, but it simply just means out of norm. And I think norm is very specific to their context, and perhaps I think to address the queerness of motherhood, we have to go into the norm where the queerness is embedded deep inside. And so today we will go through different topics, which is out of all these conversations we have on the full moon. And we continue to work. Today we're kind of like through this topic, and we involve Madeline as a feedback, and we kind of work on this topic together. And so we start, the very first one is environment, which I think through the practice of mothering, how we look into our surrounding and how we immediately confronted how the city is designed. Yeah. So maybe I will now share the first one that was our very first conversation. That I traveled from Berlin to France, and I noticed the playground are very different. And so, can I have the first photo of a Berlin playground? Yeah. So this is most of playground in Berlin. They were made with sand. So the floor are mainly mud and sand, and most of the material are wood. You rarely have wood or something that is somehow degradable, let's say. So then I have the next. So when we travel to Paris, when we look for this playground, can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. So this playground, the floor is this kind of a soft sponge floor. And in this playground, most of the material are metal and plastic. And you don't see it, but each of this kind of toy structure, they have a sign to tell you how old. This is designed for how old, the age group. This is designed for a kind of age group, and there are actually park ranger in this playground. So let's say if your kid actually is too small to play the 5 years old, the park ranger will actually come and advise you not to do this. So that was my experience in Paris, which I was rather shocked. And so I share this with Yvonne, and I let Yvonne continue with the sharing.
Okay, thank you, Scarlett. Okay, so yeah, so following the topic, and then because Nika now is 2.5 years old, and I found that she needs to play a lot now because she's really energy. So, and then I found this book, and this book is actually, can we go to the next photo? Okay, so if you came to Taiwan, you will find that all the playground in Taiwan is look like this, every city. And about 5 years ago, and there's a group of moms, they realized this is really terrible and some problem, it happened. And then they are trying to go further to understand what happened. And then the government just say that because all the parents, they want the kids are 100% safe. So that's why the playground is look like this. So those moms, they have all different backgrounds. Some of them are lawyers, some are the psychologists, and some artists as well. So they try to fight for the law, and they say the kids' right, and then a play right. And this is just come to my mind, and I just know that actually. And then I really like the River give the title Rehearsing for the Future, because I never think about that. I just, for me, because I saw this, and I just understanding, oh, okay, kids need the playwrights, and kids, how they grow, what the need they grow when they, something like that. So I saw the book, and then can we go to the next? Okay, so in 5 years, those power super mom, so they do a lot of effort. So they try to changing some playground in all over the Taiwan, over 200 playground. So now it's look like this. Actually, it's really fancy, but it's good though. It's good. So and I think really cool is they are sharing some of the playground. They are collaborate with kids. So they have a lot of workshop during some summertime. So the kids, they are design what playground they want. So some of the playground is they collaborate with the kids, and this is really inspire me. And yeah, that's what happening in Taiwan. And yeah, so we go to the next one. So I have the plan. I want to try to find some interesting playground for Nigar. So this playground is quite famous in Taipei. If you're living in Taipei, most of the parents know this one. And it's a very amazing that I take Nigar to go to this playground, and she spent 3.5 hours there. And I feel really surprising because actually this is for big kids, like a scholar said, they have the sign and to say that, oh, this is good for, what age the kids. But for Nigar, she's exploring. It's like the maze under the gear, and I really amazing that she has so much fun and during this playground. But in a way, I also feel really weird thing because in the city, and we make another thing to like the natural, the natural being. And this is so idioms for me, because the city people, why they think to build up the natural thing in the city, and but why we not bring the kids to go to the mountain, something like that. So that's what I'm thinking, and I really appreciate the kids, Nigar, do those things, and let me remind this kind of question. So when we go to the next one, okay, and maybe next, this is another one. She go to play. Can we go to the next one? Oh, actually, this is Hong Kong. Okay, here, the next one. Okay, here. And I shared to Scott that this is a really crazy thing, because in the Taipei city, the kids, every parents will bring the kids to go to the playground. And you see the photo, this is called counting down machine. Because every parent, they avoid the fighting, they avoid the argue. So they set the counting down machine for 3 minutes, which means every kids, you only can play 3 minutes on the swing. Can we see the video? So it will be like this. And the kids are lined up. Okay, so this is really, quite, very heartbreaking, actually. Just why we kids look, in this city, and we need to control them to 3 minutes, and because avoid the, the parents between to get some fighting. Okay, so that's the playground. Basically, I found it, and I'm trying to take Nigar to go different playground and to recovering something I didn't know. Yep. And the next one. Okay, and this is just happening last week, and then I just know that in Taipei we have a law is the tree is not allowed to climbing. You need to apply to the government, say you want to climb in the tree. So in Taipei, there's many places they have it actually is a really excellent thing. And then I saw Nigar is doing the climbing thing. I feel really touching because in city we all flat. So the ability of of our body only go, working on the flat floor. And this is really not for a human being. So this is another topic I'm thinking. Why we losing the climbing ability? And then also in the city, we need to build up another thing to train our body. So you can see a little bit photo. So the kids in the city, how they train their body, so they need those kind of the gear. Okay, yeah. So that's what I want to sharing. What I'm finding in the city, in Taipei city. Yeah, thanks. There's another video. Just have a look. And also one thing very funny, because many people say, oh, you are a dancer, and my husband from us are the indigenous people. So many people say, that's why Nigar is, so super. I don't know, it's about gene, or I don't know. I'm still thinking what, obviously she's really the body activity is much more than the same age kids. Yeah, so I'm also thinking, okay, it's a gym problem. I'm not sure, but maybe, yeah. Thanks. Okay, and then this is really crazy imaging. So many friends told us, don't take the kids to the playground in the weekend, and that will be like this. So yeah, I know, we know already. So from in the weekend, so you will see this is a really crazy image in Taipei. It will be like this. Yeah, just sharing. Okay, thanks. So get back to Scarlett. So maybe we can go on the next.
But thank you, Yifan. All this research was like somehow I know it's like since then it kind of developed, and I'm very fascinated when we talk about this playground, and we also think about how we play when we were younger. And so we talk a lot about we grew up. I think three of us in this meeting with Yifan and Riva and I, three of us are mainly grew up in a city, an urban city, and so in some way the street is our playground. And how the time of now the kids are more destined to play, of course, with the idea of safety and a certain kind of regulations of how public space are being used. And so it kind of makes me also think about these questions about public spaces. Like if we think of public spaces are actually basically spaces that people view the functions of public space. But less and less in the urban city, public spaces are places that they are destined to its function. So I like how you bring in again these two things, how we think about the idea of control when they are already very young age, how they will learn to receiving a kind of control. When you talk about the climbing, I didn't take the pictures, but I can share. There's a pictures of the monkey in the zoo in Berlin. I remember the first time we went there, and we saw the very elaborate kind of playing swing for the monkey. It is actually resembling all these structures of the playground for the kids. And so I think that is something perhaps can continue to think about how this very vertical body that we have now, yeah. So when you talk about the vertical body and the kind of shifting different planes. If Madeline or River want to contribute some of your thoughts.
Sure, I can jump in. Just listening to hear you speak is with so much attention dedicated to the spaces of play for your children is really, really touching. And I guess just a few things that come to mind when thinking about the materiality of the structures. These are more comments, but other aspects of the materiality that jump to mind, for example, looking at the play structures in Taiwan, are how colorful they are. And I think when we're thinking not only of play spaces between urban and rural environments, but it's also like the appearance of other perceptive elements in our urban environments that are kind of in dissonance with those spaces. And so for me, those colors, very artificial, but yet also extremely dynamic and vibrant, was something that really struck me when I first saw these images. And And so I was just maybe curious as to what the children's reactions might be to these colors, for example, and how they might commune with these colors in other aspects of their lives, like through books, and other images, for example. Then maybe two other things that also struck me. The countdown machine is like really got me thinking when we first spoke about it, because I'm kind of torn, to be honest. As much as I understand that this is imposing like a technology, a very linear technology, on children's play, which tends to not be very linear, because those kinds of concepts of like beginning, middle, and end within a narrative are not yet fully grasped, at that age. And so imposing like a linear approach to playtime can be very, indeed controlling. I also saw it in a different way. Um, and they're not mutually exclusive. I was just, maybe I wanted to bring to the table a book that I read recently, called X plus Y by Eugenia Cheng. Eugenia is a mathematician, who left, mathematics, like the world of mathematics, in pure academia, to go teach at the ICA in Chicago, so an art institute in Chicago. She wanted to teach math to art students. And part of this reason is because she wanted to break with all forms of binary boundaries. And in this book in particular, she proposes her, perception as a mathematician, of the gender binary, for example. And all of this to say that what she, coming from her field of mathematics, which is called category math, and I couldn't tell you much more about that, but proposes yet another category to approach, human relations. So instead of thinking man versus woman or man and woman, and with all of the exclusions that brings to the forefront, she thinks in terms of human. She thinks that it might be more beneficial for us moving forward as we're rehearsing for the future, to think more in terms of attitudes, and behaviors. And so she, when she looks and observes people, she sees more, behaviors that she would call ingressive, so that are very individual behaviors, versus congressive, behaviors, which are much more community based. And that those two types of behaviors, of which there are, of course, many more, but for the purposes of her analysis, she says that she can find in all humans. And so it's more interesting to think of these behaviors to try to kind of bypass the gender binary. What I'm trying to say is that when I see this countdown machine, for example, I also see that what could come out of that, in addition to, yes, a perception of control of play, is also maybe an understanding of sharing. And it might be, I don't know if that's the most perfect way to go about it. I don't think so, but that this could be a way of, again, amongst probably many other, strategies and solutions, to think of congressivity as of a very young age. This is just, sorry, that was a very a long way of bringing about that question. How do we discuss sharing, within our younger generation? And the last thing that I just wanted to say maybe is that I was really struck, looking at these beautiful images of Nikar, climbing, that she was barefoot. And I just wanted to bring that to mind. The how, as we're discussing all of these materialities of our play structures, how do we actually, deal with touch within them, and touch not only, at the level of our hands, but as a more full body experience going all the way to our feet. Um, and so, of course, certain structures, are probably more conducive to a comfortable relationship with that materiality than others. Wood chips are probably much more uncomfortable than the sand, um, or the burning of the plastic, for example, or the heat of the metal. So these are the three things that just came to mind and that I maybe wanted to bring to the table if you wanted to respond to them. But in any case, thank you for this first part of sharing.
Thank you, Madeline. That's a lot to think of. That is really great, especially this way of thinking through how this counting down machine will somehow shape what it is shaping, and one of these very big things about sharing, because Nijawa and Sika, they are at the age that they are around 2, not yet 2. It is the time that that I see that to learn to share. Sharing is something to learn, to share with others, which is first you have to establish the other. And so they are the establishment of ownership before towards how to share. And I think that is something when you talk about this digital aspect that come in, very digitalizing the space of negotiation, and or how this ability of other way of how we can deal with this kind of owning or even the perception of time. It's great. But I will save it. Maybe afterward we will open the floor, and maybe other will want to come in and talk a little bit about that if you have some thoughts. But I will bring us to the next topic, perhaps. Yeah, the next topic will be body. In one of our meetings, we touch upon this observations from River to Nijawa's father and even partner, Fungus, and how his way of interacting with his family, and how I will maybe let River talk about this experience instead of me.
You mean the experience of fungus, of what fungus behave? Yeah, because at the beginning of this year, I spent some time with fungus and even with fungus family in Taiwan, and I just realized that it's really like when you see your friend at the same time who has another role of father, but how he can behave like a child in front of his parents. And at the same time, I also realized that, oh, actually they are like super intimate enough and like really comfortable enough that fungus even can be totally naked in front of his parents. And this is very surprising to me. Like, oh, I somehow kind of like rethinking about like when have we learned this kind of boundary of body and the norm of the body that teaching us or instructing us like how to behave in relation to the exposure of your body. And then this observation is somehow linking to the mothering experiences of washing and cleaning your children. And then it was associating also to my experience that, oh, I found myself that actually when I was a kid, it's always my mother cleaning me, never the father. And then one time my mother was busy, and then so my father needed to do that. And from the beginning till the end, he never turned a biological male sex of adult. And so that has eliciting some relevant conversations between Scarlett, Ethan, and I, and our experience.
Yeah, thank you, Riva. Can we hear?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because it was a little bit breaking. Yeah, but we think about this, and so of course the questions that brings in is precisely central to what is the body. Like we also talk about how fragmented the body can be being perceived. Like if you think about perceptions, and we expanded it to think more and more different kinds of children are bringing, or the labor of mothering are not necessarily only carrying out to the birth parent. Like it can also be carried out to perhaps other people that were. I know this example of kids were showered by a domestic helper, and the domestic helper is dressed. So it's also a very different idea of thinking through this process of cleaning, and also how the body are met, because it's a very intimate situation where the body are in the same enclosed space. And so with this, we go into the questions of we go into these observations of how we ourselves think about how our idea of bodies are constructed through this process of through somehow a ritual, because we go through this ritual, and we think about when how do you interact with the body. And I would let Yvonne talk about this experience of Nijara, how she think everything is a butt.
Okay, maybe 1 or month ago, because I don't, because Nika now know the words a lot more and more day by day. And then one time I just realized that everything she around the what's it called, the underneath, and she called everything is called butt. So for example, for the pee or for the pool, everywhere organ, or the everywhere she called butt. And then I just remind me that how do I teach her the correct the name of the body part. And I found that it's really important, because it's a little bit confusing for her, for the body. So that time is really interesting and then I'm also thinking how precise I need to tell her, and something like that. And also just because we are talking about the body thing, I reminding that the washing body thing. I'm very happy that our generation, we were sharing. Me and from us, we were sharing the washing the body. And then also in my experience, my it's like the washing business is for mom. And then that's why we are, I think that's quite important, because we never think, especially for the girl, the man body is so far away, and then it's something, miracle, something like that. So I think it's quite important when they are so young, and then they know man body and girl's body is different. And so she can get a totally understand of the body. I think that's quite important thing, even though they are just 1 or 2 years old. Yeah.
Yes, and after this discussion, I was introduced a book. I didn't bring with me, but it was a very small book that was to teach children about how to respect your own body. And so I was very contradicted, because on one hand you have you have these two kinds of book in the market. One kind of book is very generalizing the body, which is they are just so here's the head and here's the hand, and they don't really specify the body. Yeah? And this the area of the sex, they are just called private part. So the notions of private in the body comes in this very moment. And they are either other kind of book, which is extremely scientific, which you have all this flip of here is in the intestine, here's the heart, and here's the bone, and here is the muscle. So this is how I observe in this way of introducing the body, and these moments that when I can take place in front, have these moments that which the body can be touched. The body can learn through a sensation, and not necessarily presented through as a certain kind of knowledge. And I would say after these conversations that we have back in August, I started to think, and also through taking a different actions of to try if I would practice differently, that with such as my son, but I think we will expand, because in this conversation we expand to the questions of sex educations, and we also expand to the questions of how ourselves explore this intimacy with another body. So maybe I let Madeline to come in.
Sure. Again, just a few things that I'm picking up on along the way. I love this notion that the labor of mothering can be carried out by other community members, all the while understanding that that the question of boundaries is something that also becomes immediately necessary to address. And so I'm just curious how these boundaries might materialize. So it's the first step, yes, of understanding one's own body, and then understanding what is the extent of that relationality with other bodies, and other bodies' relationality with our own. So the question of boundaries, I guess, is one that we also have discussed. And one way that I considered it, again, is returning to the materiality of the structures. Maybe that's the leitmotif of this talk, or the way that I'm approaching it in any case. But I appreciated part of our discussion, for example, around the actual limits that are placed by the structures of cleaning in a bathroom, for example. So like the bathtub actually having these sort of barrier walls, and that there is a difference between a cleaning process where the child or the person is alone in the bathtub and the caretaker is outside, versus the caretaker being inside of the bathtub as well. And the shower curtain would be yet another expression of that boundary making, I think. And again, I have a grandmother who's 101 years old, for example, and who is showered by caretakers. And so I think that this is a question that it can be addressed at any point of an individual's life. So just maybe returning to like, what are the objects in our relationship to these objects that help us understand the placement of boundaries? And then this is because we're talking about a cleaning space. But how does our relationship to a shower curtain, for example, then carry over to our relationship to a curtain in a room, in a bedroom, for example, versus in a living room? So all of the different physical constructs that may then understand the necessary constructions of placing limitations amongst limitations of boundaries amongst human beings. And then at what point do these boundaries break down? So then that leads to like the question of consent and consenting to different forms of intimacy. And I guess just the second point that I'd like to raise, I picked up on what you were saying, Scarlett, about the generalization, and Ethan, you were saying this as well, about the problematics of these books that generalize the body. And so for me, what that also raises is obviously not only with regard to generalization of more intricate and intimate body parts, but also just the generalization of the concept of the body and all that is erased as a consequence of that. So not understanding obviously the plurality of bodies and the differences that exist amongst the bodies that are on this planet. So yeah, how do we bring in the question of differences at a very early age? I think these are the 2 points that came to mind.
Thank you. Thank you. So I carry on with the next topic, yeah, because it's 10 minutes to 2.
Time flies.
The next, yes, I know. With us go. The next one is a big topic called pandemic. I think we address it because we were in a time of the pandemic and how it cannot also shape through our practice of mothering, basically, because it is not. It depends on where you are in the world, I guess. When I was in Germany, and in 2020 we have a lot of heavy lockdown. We call it lockdown, and so people literally cannot visit each other. I think we can only have like one person from one household can go to another place, and so all this kind of shaped and how we talk about these observations of the distance, because I think it's interesting to observe children that they are born within this time, how they would understand distance, the idea of distance, because it was very daunting to know that how these new languages, Zico, his very first word that he said is, besides Papa Mama, is mask. He knows that when we go out, we have to wear a mask, and he will remind us to wear this thing called a mask. And so all this new social conduct, and which he knows when he walk on the street, where you literally see how the social choreography on the street, people not walking close to each other, they were walking away far from each other, and how when you meet someone, it's all this awkward moment of not gonna hug, not gonna handshake, and so I think all this kind of shaping a kind of new way of being with each other in a social situation.
Yeah, I following up. The very funny thing is because in Taiwan we still need to wear the mask till now when we go out, and then sometimes I will forget to wear the mask for Nigar, and then she will say, "You forgot my mask," and it's funny, but also it's it's wow. She knows she needed the mask to go out, and she thought that is normal. Because during this long term, like more than 1 year, where every time she go out, she need to wear the mask, and I feel, wow, I didn't thought that it's the it's like the clothes already, and this is really horrible. But I don't know yet when. So I think it's I don't know what. Maybe a few years later, I don't know how she feel. I don't know this experience, how, what affect her. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting to think about distance in this context of social space or like social conduct, because we distance is also something that the marker of independency. Like if you are able to manage your distance, you are a very full-grown independent person. And I think there is something very ambiguous for I see for the kids, like how this how do you depart these notions of not to take others' toys and put it in your mouth and put it back there, because the other parents are not as comfortable as before. And so all this byproduct of the idea of going back to the idea of sharing, and it's kind of I would say it's a kind of new situation, and would be interesting to know this new norm that they grew up with, such as doing the test, wearing a mask, using alcohol to clean the hand, or the smell of the alcohol are so present. Think of the
And yeah, I wonder how this pandemic, for example, in Scarlet and Berlin situation, like, because a kid has been kind of like spend long time only with parents without other same age kids, and then what happened when the kid encounter other kids, like, do they recognize how they would recognize this distancing or interactive relations with strangers, for example, in public space, in park, for example? Does it, like, how this pandemic situation also has impact? Because I guess in Taiwan, this is
not much different actually. Only that 2 months. So I cannot imagine actually. I cannot imagine how Berlin, how Europe, the kids, how they face it. I'm not too sure.
I guess, yeah, I'm curious the role that contagion plays in play, actually. I guess, like, what is the, if we're talking about children kind of imagining up worlds and the porosity of imagination, and one idea leading to another, as a form of contagion. What is the relationship to that kind of spontaneous, improvised play? And that it becomes all the more constructed because, as you were saying, Scarlett, agency is more limited in terms of how we're gathering. And yeah, two other things that I thought of, also how the conversation around both life and death are also being kind of brought in at a very, very quick pace, almost, maybe more so even around death in children's lives. We're talking about people who are passing away due to the pandemic, but also killing germs. The question of, like, almost in a militaristic kind of discourse of extermination. It can go very far, and so what's the impact of that kind of discourse on younger minds. And then I'm also just, I mean, I know that Zico and Nika are a bit young, but I live right around the corner of a school, for example, and what are the consequences of nonlinear learning patterns where all of a sudden, and both the positive and negative consequences of having school years that are constantly interrupted also. And so what's going on in the spaces outside of the classroom, and how are things picked up again within the classroom when those interruptions are ended. So yeah, if there is anything in terms of alternative learning practices that could make use of that time and of those breaks, rather than seeing them solely as losses in a program.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, definitely, it's interesting to think about this kind of war narrative. Like, I think in France, it's very, very clear. Like, the pandemic, it is a war situation. Like how this kind of fear is producing and in the surrounding, and how we can think how to deal with this narration. But we continue to the next topic, and so maybe we open up the floor. There's some thought within this, and the next will be role and identity, what we talk about. We group them because in this questions of role, we come to the questions of mobility between roles, like how we find strategies to gain mobility between all the roles, perhaps roles of being, I guess this is more than just observation through being a mother, but I think somehow because they are this image of the mother or the norm that create a much tense situation for whoever that is taking up this mothering work, that they were meant to be completely devoted and a very sacrificed mother, be it you are transparent or you are queer parents, or you are just grandparents. Whoever the main dominant caregiver are meant to be completely devoted and are the one who sacrificed self to nurture this future generation. So I think that comes very strong with when one is going into this place where you have this, that they are perhaps not in the temporal time. You know, perhaps one step into like very often I hear the expressions that people say, it's going to be for life. It's a relationship for lifetime. So I think when this comes, and so then how do we find this mobility between all these narrations of, this is my life before and this is my life now, and I have this role that I wanted to be continue to my piece of work, and then I have this that I have to be the role of mother, let's say. So I guess we assume much more role than just these two polar, but then how do we think through this? So maybe I'll let even respond to this.
Yeah. For this, for me, the mobility, I think, yeah, I'm learning to different, to different role. And then the thing I'm thinking is, actually, I love every role I have now. I mean, for daily life. And then what I'm doing is I try to make myself more comfort. And sometimes I need, maybe I'm not a good mother. It's okay. And so for me, I try to release and then let the role, go in and out, and I quite enjoy. but sometimes maybe not perfect. So that's what I'm trying to. Because for me, I'm thinking that maybe for Asian particularly, the mother role is so high. You know, everyone know you have the kids, and I really found that my level is go up. And it's interesting. Yeah, everyone think, you know, the mother is, you know, it's a really incredible thing. But I try to make it more easy, actually. Yeah. So that's an interesting experience, but I'm still learning. And then also how can be artists and also be mom. Before it's really struggle. But for now, I think in our generation, we are quite, yeah. Yeah, we are also mentioned that maybe the generation before the last generation, the woman, they since they are become the mom, they stop the artist career. We are talking about that as well, but I think we are changing. So yeah.
Yeah, we have these observations, precisely what Yifan said, that we observe in our surrounding, which is they are women, that they are artists when they have children. I remember Yifan said, yeah, at least the first 10 years, they will be just suddenly disappear. So I think it's, yeah, and we talk a little bit about this shift, and she mentioned in Taiwan how it's shifting, and I also see that it's I mean it's hard to track where I am in Germany. I think Germany has always been kind of open, but nevertheless we think through this this fear of a person wanted to have a child, and they are still thinking how they will not be accepted more in the institutional level, that they will not have the same opportunity and they will not get the job because they will have a child, and that is still a kind of considerations when people will hire someone, right? It's kind of implicit to talk about this, and I think there is something interesting in this shift that Ivan talks about, because perhaps it also comes from the dominating freelance structure, that there are much more people are freelancing. And so in this freelancing, you in a way free, but then you have all these things that you actually pay to make yourself freelance. And so you pay for the nanny who can take care of your kid, so then you can go to the studio and do your freelance project. But this freelance actually also come with what you have to earn to pay for your freedom to be the freelance. So this, we talk a little bit of this kind of economical structures that that perhaps is in place. And if you would imagine yourself in a society that the social welfare structures are very different from one another, and so how people would make decisions of whether or not to have step into like motherhood or mothering, because there are other structures such as the share the kids or yeah.
Yeah, and then following on this, Scarlett, Evan, and I, we have been also touching upon the area of mothering, like the imagination or the understanding of mothering as artistic practice, or artistic practice as mothering. And at the same time, that in this way, that how we are defining or understanding mothering as mother-centric practice or mothering as children-centric practice, and in this way what children or what mother refers to. So, and then Scarlett also brought up like can mother artist become a term to describe a quality or a medium of mother artist? And if so, how the notion of mother or mothering can become a medium or materials, coming back to the material, what to contextualize the mother artist. Mm.
Yeah, thank you, River, because we have this talk because I remember I saw a Facebook post that someone was commenting on River at, oh, you are such a great mother. And this has been happening, and we know that this is in our surrounding, and this is really interesting when we think about. I the first thing, of course, this documentary of Paris is Burning, this feature of the mother in the house of the Voguing, and like these notions of mother. It is not only so this mothering, and we were thinking. If that would be a quality. And of course, it is the questions of why the word mother, and because mother is often comes together with the notions of father, right? And why not another term which is maternal? And so I think there is some things that have been quite discussed of like this word mother is very gendered. It's a very gendered area, and how we can also wanted to expand this. How can we think beyond the this non-binary, or like binary gender, like?
Someone raise their
And
hand.
also, oh yes, okay. So I don't know how can we let this person speak? Open queue.
Hey, Chris, would you like to do you have some questions or comments, or do you want to share with something?
Sorry, I didn't turn on my microphone. Okay, now I got the sound. I'm sorry. Hi, fellow speakers. And following up by Scarlett saying um, the essence of father and the maternal essence, and I'm thinking about sharing and responding to Ethan, just raising some questions like, is it about the gene inside about a baby, and is it about how it's more like how the the fellow questions. Yes, I'll just go keeping up, and then because I would like to respond to Ethan's question in a way like sharing about this. I won't call it about mobility, but I will call it about fluidity, 流动性 in gender. So in this motherhood, I would say that it got this fluidity essence inside of it. So we are not going to be refined by this definition of motherhood or mother. We are going to define by our behavior and our experience. And my experience was exactly happening with fungus. It was really beautiful experience because my definition of motherhood is that whoever that can nourishing you, nurturing you, that is the role of mother to you. And my working experience with fungus, he did really show me about, because fungus got the Aboriginal of Amis, the background of Amis. Amis or Amis Aboriginal background, and I happen to have the share same background as fungus do. So he was trying to share to me like how I can get my ability and my strength and my power back, like Nigar was trying to do in the playground. She was doing really fine because she got the really good fine gene from a dancer mother, from a artist father, and then that's a perfect nigar. And then for me, I probably just have my own essence, but I'm working on my field as well. So I'm just really got inspired by fungus, and then I learned about this mobility, or I should say about this fluidity, 流动性, from the term or the word of motherhood from fungus. So I'm saying that I'm really thankful to him if Ethan got the chance just to bring him my thankful. And then he really taught me about this, and I would like to share this with the fellow everybody right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, Chris.
Thank you, hey Chris, because it's really nice to hear you sharing and how you already like taking it out of this precisely only see women biological construction and finding this quality into people. Like I hear it's like a kind of quality of empowerment and something. And I think when we think about gene, like is it in the gene? I think this question, it also can connect to perhaps ancestral embodiment or ancestral memory, what passed through, what actually have been passed through. And this is really interesting. Melody, do you have anything to respond?
Not particularly on this point, though. I love the notion of mothering being some kind of like extremely fluid concept that can just be grasped by different people in different points of life, and that you can both be receiving the experience of mothering and both partake in it also. And I just wonder to what extent conversations like these can just kind of immerse themselves in more public discourse, so that this nebulous existence of mothering can be just freely experienced and not with any form of stigma. I guess this is just our general question. But yeah, instead of just being like, and now it's my time for mothering, and dissociating that from partaking in that experience, I think that understanding them as simultaneous moments can also be very beneficial. Yeah, that just struck me, how you can both receive and give moments of mothering at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. That's very beautiful way to say it, which means if that will bring into a public discourse, how it can also shape how each person think of being in that place or taking that place, instead of many women have struggled into this biopolitics of, oh no, 35 is time, it's not now, it's never, or like all these pressures or questions that they were coming all together in the patriarchal constructed image of mother somehow. Yeah, definitely. And now if you would be okay, maybe we can open up and to hear if any other want to raise your hand and tell us, share us something.
Yeah, because we are a little bit over the time, but hopefully we are not extending the time forever. So if any audience members here, you have any thoughts or comment or questions, you are very welcome to leave words in the chat box or to turn on your microphone if you would like to. All right, then yeah, I just perhaps wanted to add some, not conclusion, but like also to add some ideas about this. I think when Scarlett and Ethan started to dive into this kind of intersectional context, not only between Europe and Taiwan, but also weaving a lot of different aspects of this context that they have just shared. I thought about one thing which is quite fascinating is how we see mothering as a process or practice of clearing as well. Like this mothering as clearing is also happen to situations where like the actions and the decisions and the sensibilities then or messages that you make, you give, you take are constantly not only confronting but also dealing with those normative or heteronormative structure of ABCDE, something like this, like from the understanding of recognizing or acknowledging the image and function, social function of being a mother, to how a biological female mother or non-binary mother can do mothering in everyday practice. Yeah. Yeah, this is somehow like I have been like fascinating to continue to get to know the researcher. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Geraldine.
Yes.
Please.
Hi, it's Geraldine. I'm in Australia and it is very, very late for me as a mother. It is 12:21, but I really wanted to say hi. I really appreciate the conversation. There is so much there that I feel as a dancer, as an adult, in so many ways that, yeah, being a mother, my little boy is 2 and 3 months. And I think we lived 6 months of no COVID. And so far, both of his birthdays have been on Zoom, which in some ways it's been a blessing that his grandmother from overseas could be there as well. Yeah, the idea of how you spoke, Scarlett, of queer and the mother, like this kind of norm or unnorm. There's so much in there that really, for me, has brought up, like in Australia, it's very much, I guess it's the word that now that I'm going to start using is no longer postpartum, but it's queer, like this queer mother, and the becoming. There's a lot in that. And I also really wanted to say in relation to that, how saddened I was to recognize when you started to speak about the private parts, and then to think of the idea that, like in telling our children or in our children at such a young age, I can't even really speak it, but that our bodies all of a sudden become private, like in this really enclosed, like, it's just that I find that really heartbreaking. I find that really touching and heartbreaking. And I don't know if it's, like from coming from a dance background, or perhaps the kinds of works that I've chosen to be a part of as a dancer. The body is just, it's a celebration of not just ourselves, but of our world and what we've become. And for me, my little boy knows exactly where his penis is, exactly where his bottom is. He's now up to, he thinks it's hilarious, but his ankle bone. I sprained my ankle a little while ago, so he knows exactly where his ankle bone is. And I've been thinking about the idea of, as a parent, as a mother, is there a difference in the importance or in the identifying of an ankle bone or a penis or a bottom, his brain? So yeah, that there's just, I think, this notion of identifying body parts and what words we are comfortable with ourselves as parents is just, it's huge. It's really, yeah, it's massive, bigger than than I think any of the books that have been written. And just one last thing that I wanted to speak about, Madeleine, you spoke about structures, this idea of structures and physical constructs. And the word structures for me really brings up, I've been studying and actively working through a body-mind centering. And in body-mind centering, the structure are the bones. And it kind of just made me think, you know, like in this same kind of notion of, it's kind of like the bones I personally remember anatomically, it's kind of like the only thing I really remember learning at school. But then what the contents and the container that is within the structure has then, you know, again, brought this importance of what is within the structure. Yeah, so I don't want to take too much time, but just could talk for the whole night, I think, on the topic. Thank you so much to everybody for being present and for sharing your amazing collaborators.
Thank you so much. Scarlett, Ethan, or hi, Zico. Playground.
That is something you realize. Learning, every moment is learning. There is no moment say, now I learn and now I don't learn. Every single moment is play and learn. But thank you so much, and we definitely would like to carry on with this what we are just started. Yeah, rather short time, so we'll carry on. And I would just one thing that is still in. Hey, oh, thank you. It brought me my lunch. Yeah, it's just that what actually we also started to think of this kind of circular motions of care, circular motions of care. It's that when you are taking care of someone, in some way you also take care of yourself. Because I remember Madeleine shared with us this podcast, and in this podcast there was one mother talks about how the kids refuse to take the breast milk. And the mother was very disturbed because as a good mother is supposed to give all your nurture from your body, and then they discover the baby not to drink the breast milk because the mother was having all these toxic elements from the food that she take in, and so the baby is not taking it. Not until the mother had to stop taking all this junk food. I mean, it's not necessarily really junk food because you actually don't know which food is contaminated with things that you. Yeah, so for me it was really interesting, this kind of idea of when you take care of someone, you're taking also care of yourself.
Yeah. Event. Oh, thank you, Madeleine, for this podcast. Event, do you wanna add something at the end? And Madeleine, please also feel free.
Maybe I feel that the new birth, the new birth had a meaning for everyone, to rethinking how this world will be. And then because I also think back to the topic within rehearsing the future. But I think with the kids, it's never rehearsing, because it's not again. It's not exactly like again and again. And then this is interesting. I practice rehearsing with a kid, but it's never, it's impossible. But we keep rehearsing. Yeah, I think that's learning. Same thing. It's cool.
And Madeleine?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Scarlett, Ethan, River, and the Adam team for hosting this opportunity to meet and converse. It's really joyful to share this time space with you. And maybe I just, since our conversation has started around these topics, just considering as I move through life all of the different mothering opportunities to which I'm presented, both as a receiver and as a giver, and to be very sensitive to those moments, which is probably a long moment of life, actually, but treating them with attention, and this and all different aspects of what characterizes a life, I guess. So through personal relationships to work environments, I think right now I'm experiencing mother the most, for example, in a professional setting through mentorship. And so how do I converse with younger professionals, students? I see this also as a teacher. And so creating space for these opportunities of transmission and learning. And I think I'm really struck, maybe one of the takeaways from this conversation is the simultaneity of both the giving and the receiving in acts of mothering. And so I think right now I'm struck by my own experience of mothering through teaching and learning, and that those are constantly occurring at the same time. So anyway, thank you for reminding me of this. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with you, and then with the next generation also.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. At the end, yes, thank you. Wanna say thank you for the audiences, for you to join this section with us. And also, yeah, looking forward to keep learning from mothering and doing like receiving, giving at the same time. Thank you guys, and have a good evening or good afternoon, good time of the rest of your day, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
moms. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Happy
Take care.
Bye.